.NET 6 Minimal APIs has allowed us to reduce boilerplate code when creating endpoints. In this video, we will take a look at how .NET 6 Minimal APIs has involved ASP.NET Core. To demonstrate this, we're going to take a small ASP.NET Core web API with a couple of endpoints. The API has been built using .NET Core 2.1 and we want to convert it to .NET 6. Come the end of this video, you'll be able to see an ASP.NET Core web API in .NET 6 using minimal APIs. Now for more ASP.NET Core tutorials, visit roundthecode.com, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/roundthecode, and follow us on LinkedIn at roundthecode.com/LinkedIn. So we have this scenario. A corporate company has a small blog where they post the latest company news for their employees. Employees are invited to give their reaction by posting comments against each post. The blog is powered using an ASP.NET Core web API. It has been written using ASP.NET Core 2.1 and they wish to upgrade it to ASP.NET Core 6. The API only has a couple of endpoints which are read all posts, read post by slug, read comments by post ID, and create comment for post. Given this scenario, this is a perfect candidate for using one of .NET 6's new features, Minimal APIs. What are Minimal APIs? Minimal APIs allow the ability to add simple API endpoints in an application's configuration file. As a result, this means that we don't have to go down the MVC route to create API endpoints. Going down the MVC route has many benefits. However, it does have the drawback of having to create a lot of boilerplate code, which can be a little bit over the top, particularly if we only have a small number of endpoints. And one of the benefits with Minimal APIs is the fact that it has support for dependency injection. So we can pass in each of our services as parameters. However, we need to be careful when using Minimal APIs to ensure that we aren't using it too often. Minimal APIs are good for a small number of endpoints, but we run the risk of the configuration file becoming too big. So this is our ASP.NET Core web API and it's written in .NET Core 2.1, and I'm just going to talk you through some of the files that we've got. So we've got our entities here, and this represents the tables in the database. So we've got our post here as a unique identifier, a title, the article, so the actual text that's in it, the slug, so the actual URL, and the time it is published. We've then got the comment here, the comment entity. This relates to a post. We can see it with the identifier. It's also got the post identifier, so it links up to the post. We've also got the message here, so what the actual comment is and when the comment was created. We've also got this model here, and this goes in when we actually create a comment in one of our API endpoints, which I'll show you in a bit. This has just simply got the post ID and the message that we're posting up as the comment. Going into our comments service now. So we're storing all our comments in a dictionary. It creates a new instance of that comments when we initialize this service. And we've also got this create method here, and this will create a new comment into the comments dictionary up here. We've also got another method here where it reads all the comments by a particular post. And this is the interface where it implements the methods. Then we've got the post service. So it works in a similar way to the comments. We've got our posts here, and then it links up, adds some sample posts in there, and then we've got some extra methods here. So the read all gets all the posts, read by ID, it gets a post by ID, and then we've got the read by slug where it reads a particular post by slug. Let's just have a look at the controllers now. We've got the post controller here. It's passing in the post service through dependency injection, and we've got a read all method here and a read by slug. And with comments, similar thing, we're passing in our services as parameters in the controller as part of dependency injection. And we've got a read all by post method here and a create method. So then we've got our program and our startup, which contains all our configurations. So we're setting it as MVC. We've got our singletons here. We've added Swagger in there, and we've got our configure method here. Now we want to go ahead and upgrade this to .NET 6. So let's go ahead and do that. So the first thing we need to do is we need to edit the project file. There's a few things we need to do here. We need to change the target framework to Net 6.0. Don't need the Lang version in there. We also need to upgrade some of these, so we can remove the ASP.NET Core app and Razor design, and we need to upgrade the ASP.NET Core Swashbuckle, and we're going to upgrade that to 6.2.3. Now we're going to go into the program class, and what we're going to do with this is we're going to go ahead and remove all of that, and we're going to type in a new instance of Builder, calling the web application, which we'll have to import in like that, and we're going to call create builder arguments. Now you might be thinking, what's happened to the namespace? What's happened to the method? What's happened to the actual class? Well, .NET 6, a new feature with the console template, is that you don't need all that. It's built in automatically. So it simply is that we can just start writing code without having to add a class or a namespace. Now we can go ahead and start merging stuff from our startup into our program. So we're going to pass in all these services methods, and we're going to pass it in here, and we'll see an error at the moment, but what we can do, this services method is inside the builder. So what we can do is we can go ahead and call our services like that. We're just going to change it for all of them. We just need to fix these. We need to import the relevant packages into the file. There we go. So we're getting a squiggly line there because it's obsolete, but we'll sort that out in a bit. So we've built our services here. Now we need to build our web application. And in order to do that, we create a new instance and call it app, and we call builder.build. Now we go back into our startup, and what we can do is we can copy all of this and move it once again into our program class. Final thing we need to do is we need to call the app.run. So there we go, we've moved all our methods from our startup into our program class here, as you can see. We just need to fix that error there. The app.environment is where we can get that. We need to import the Microsoft.extensions.hosting. Now that we've done that, we've merged our startup class into our program class. That means we can now go ahead and remove the startup, as we're not going to need it anymore. So that's now gone. What we're going to do now is we're going to start using something called minimal APIs. And we're going to move all our API endpoints from our controllers into the configuration file. Now, in order to do that, what we can do is in our app, we've got a couple of new methods in here. So we've got the map get. We've also got a map post. Find it, there you go, map post, map put, and there's also a map delete as well. We're going to be using the map get and the map post. So we're going to start off with the comments as well. So if we go back into our comment controller, we're going to move them first. So we're going to move the read all by post first. So if we go back in here, we'll map get, and it's API comment post ID. Now we can pass in our parameters. So we've got the iPost service like that. We also need the iComment service. So if we go back into our comment controller, we're passing in these services here into our endpoint. And then we've got our post ID. Okay, so now it's just a case of going in here and getting the content from our read all by post and adding it in here. We need to fix a couple of issues here. So we've changed the post service and the comment service. You might find as well that the not found and the OK are not going to work in minimal APIs, because that is part of the controller base in MVC. What we can do to change that though is if we can call a class called results. We need to import it in, and then we can just call not found. And we can do the same down here as well. We can just call results.ok. And as you can see, that's now working for us. We haven't got any syntax errors. Now we're going to go ahead and do the same for the others. So we're going to copy that, post that in, the API comment. This time we're going to be using map post. And we need to pass in a parameter of create comment. Need to import the namespace into that. Remove that, we go back into our comment controller, and we can just simply copy that. So the create comment is there. We're just passing that in like that. Remove the underscores there. Again, we've got the same issue as we had before. We can just use the results not found and the results.ok to fix those issues. So we've done that for the comments. Now we need to just do the same for the post. So in here we've got a read all method and a read by slug. So we go for the read all first. So let's go back into our program. So if we copy that first, call it API/post as the endpoint. We only need the post service for this, so we can get rid of all of that. And then simply with that, if we go back into our post controller, we're just returning all the posts. So we're calling this read all method from the postal service. And finally, we've got our last one where we're reading a particular post by slug. So we go in here once again, we'll do a copy and paste, pass in the slug. And then we also need to pass that in as a parameter of a string type. And going back into our post controller, once again, we can copy that. It's the same issues that we had before, so we can change that to results not found, results.ok post. Okay, so now that we've done that, we've added it into minimal APIs. We don't actually need MVC, so we can make a few changes here. We can remove that, we don't need that anymore. We're also not going to need that anymore. So we've removed that. We're also going to go ahead and delete these controllers because once again, we're not using them in there, we're using them in minimal APIs. First of all, we need to make just a few changes to Swagger. We need to add a Swagger documentation. We create a new instance, we need to give it a title and a version, version 3.3, version 1 we'll call it. So yeah, at this point, we're not going to see it in Swagger coming up because it's not going to work properly. But what we can do is we can call builder.services.add endpoints API Explorer like that. So now that that's running, let's give that a run and see if it's going to work for us. So you can see there our API endpoints are running there. Let's just give them a test though. So we know if we go back to our post service, we can see we've already got a couple of default posts already in there. So we can give that a test. So we've got our API post here. We'll try it out. So this will get all the posts here. And then if we get one by the slug as well, so we've got a slug up here. So if we call that slug, and we try that out. There you go, you can see, so that's now working from our minimal APIs. So we've tidied up the code quite a lot, I seem to think. So we've got rid of the controllers, we haven't got them in there anymore. We've also got rid of the startup as well. We've managed to add all our endpoints into our configuration file. Minimal APIs is good for a small number of endpoints with simple functionality. But is it ideal for every single API? Not in my opinion. Adding extra endpoints to the application's configuration could lead to a very large file. You could extend it out to different files, but then you might as well go down the MVC route and get the extra functionality that comes with it. It does, however, offer a different way of creating endpoints and reduces a lot of boilerplate code. Now, thanks very much for watching, and hit a like on the video.